Hello everyone, welcome to CiviCRM episode 19. As we've mentioned before, these are bi-weekly presentations stroke walkthroughs of different areas of CiviCRM. We're doing this one on a Monday because we kind of ran out of time on Friday. Daniela's my spotter saying she heard me cough, so that's good. It's working then. So this is a Monday. Should be a Friday, but it's a Monday. We slipped into Monday. And today we'll be going through GDPR, right? So GDPR is sorry, I'm reading the comments. Daniel, you can stop now. I don't need any more pumping up. GDPR was an initiative introduced a while ago into the European Union, 2018. But there's a common misconception, which is that it only applies to organisations in Europe, when actually it applies to any data, any European citizen data, not organisations. So, like I say, in this episode, we're gonna go ahead and set up CiviCRM for GDPR, and we're going to go through some of the settings and stuff. And I'm doing this all in WordPress this week because the latest version of the GDPR extension has some WordPress stuff in it. So therefore, I kind of need to do it in WordPress. But everything you're going to see me do, you could do it in Drupal as well. So the systems are interchangeable in that way, or the extensions are. Right, so let's crack on. So I've just brought up the main page, the GDPR page. So if you are interested in a bit more detail, I'll make it a bit bigger. So there is a dedicated page about the GDPR compliance, etc., and you can have a read. But like I say, the most common misconception is that it applies to Europe only, and as I said, it doesn't. It applies to European citizens and not European organisations only. So therefore, if you're a US or a Canadian or anybody else, any region outside of the UK, outside of the EU, which includes the UK now, but let's not go there. But any organisation outside of the EU and holding EU individual data, you should be GDPR compliant. Now that they're talking about fines and all this kind of stuff, I mean, it's been there for a couple of years. There have been some quite large fines handed out, but really what we're talking about is just making sure you're compliant. Like it's really not hard to be compliant, and it's best practice to be compliant unless you're a marketing organization who is purely interested in kind of mass collating data and don't really care about where or how you got it from. You're just working off numbers. Then obviously you don't care. But most of the organizations that are just CiviCRM users will care. They're trying to target their key audiences and people who are interested in who share the mission. So for you guys, you will be interested in doing it the right way, and you will want to make sure that people are aware of what they can and can't do. So let's crack on. So I'm going to run a couple of windows in this during this presentation. So I'm going to try and make it a bit bigger so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to run one window here, which is me logged in as a user of CiviCRM, and then I'm going to run this other window, which is which is me as a member of public, if you like. Oh, so let's just go. Oh, how do I do that? Let's go back there. So I want to go in here. So this is my inbox in effect, and this is where email is going to come into. So I'm going to be a member of the public, and I'm going to be having emails coming into my inbox, and I'm going to react to them, right? So let's go back to CiviCRM. So the first step in doing this, setting up your Civi for GDPR compliance, is to install the CiviCRM GDPR extension. So we wrote the extension, and we're the primary maintainers. There are obviously more people involved. It's widely used throughout the CiviCRM community, and actually gives you the option to do a lot more than probably what people do use it for. So hopefully this session will make that a bit easier to understand. So I'm just in WordPress. I'm going through the standard route to enable extensions. It is a supported extension, so it's there by default. I don't need to go to GitHub to get it or anything. I can just download it from here. And like I say, I'm doing this in demo setups of Civi, so I've got it all set up to automatically to allow me to download and install extensions and things like that. You might not be able to do that. You might have to go down a different route to get them, but that we can cover that in a different episode. Alright, so the extension has downloaded cleanly and it's installed, and it's saying it's upgraded. I don't know what for, but anyway, it's done all that stuff. So I now have the extension there. It's all green, so this is all good. Okay, so once I've installed that extension, I will get a GDPR menu. And the first thing to look at is the settings, right? So I need to set up my GDPR settings accordingly. So the point of contact, so part of the GDPR rules state that there should be a data protection, data compliance, data officer, DPO, designated at each organization. So this is really a prompt for you guys to be aware of that is one of the requirements, that you have a named person, and they're ultimately responsible should there be any questions, stroke issues, complaints. They're ultimately responsible for answering on behalf of the organization who's keeping that data. So it is an important role, but it's not exposed anywhere at this point. So at the moment that's internal. So the first set of options are these activity types. So one of the GDPR directives is about how long and under what conditions you keep data. So for instance, if you're a fundraising organization and you've got contacts on your database who have had no activity in the past 5 years or 7 years, then you're not really, and they haven't opted in, you haven't managed to get hold of them, you haven't managed to contact them. And when I say you haven't managed, I mean you might have emailed, but there's no proof that they have continued to show interest in what you're sending them. They haven't necessarily opened them. They may have opened them, they may not have, but there's been no other interaction apart from outbound stuff, right? So in that kind of situation, you should be thinking about, do I need to keep that data? Should I remove it? And it's not just about the person and keeping them in your database when they don't want to be there. It's more about unnecessarily having data that could be exposed and therefore could cause you a problem, when actually that person is just not, those individual stroke organizations, they're just not interacting with you anyway, because you have no information in the CRM to indicate that they are. So the more data you have, and the bigger, let's say you do have a breach of any kind of scale, the more data you've got, the bigger the breach is going to be. So the more potential, the more of an issue you present. So it just makes sense to not keep data that is inactive. It's often organizations refer to it as kind of archive, and this is really talking about that, but it's a bit more controlled than just kind of archiving. So what I have to do here is say, well, all right, what kind of information? Normally it's individuals. It's not. It could be households if you're outside of UK mainly, but it could be individuals or households, and then which activity type. So I'm going to say, right, they haven't registered for an event, they haven't done a membership, there's no membership renewal, there's no contribution. So those I'm classing as active organisations. Because phone calls and meetings, phone calls, it depends on how I'm recording them. But if I'm just recording the fact that I tried to ring someone, that's probably not an indicator that they're active, because they may or may not have answered that call. They may or not might not have had a positive conversation, so I'm not going to keep those. But these are the kinds of decisions that you would make. So I might say open case, for instance, is one where I don't want to remove that person. So the next question is, how many days am I going back? So if in my case I'm going back 3,000 days, I don't know how many years that is, but roughly 8. Yeah, something like that. So normally here we would normally go like 7 years or maybe 5, depending on what type of information we've got, where we got it from. But I'm just doing this for demo purposes. So what I'm saying here is, if they have not had any of these in the last 3,000 days, then I want the system to tell me, so that I know really I should do something with that person. It might be that I take them out of all groups and send them an opt-in email. It might be that I just remove them from the system if I no longer need that data, i.e. there's no financial information going back less than 7 years or 5 years or whatever I've set this to. So therefore I don't really need to keep them at all. These are your kinds of decisions at your organization, and that's why the GDPR kind of guidelines are there, to help you think about some of that stuff and understand why we trying to not expose ourselves unnecessarily. Data export. So this is one of the recent additions to CiviCRM. So this will let you see or create activities when data is exported. So we'll do that. So you can see against the contact when they were exported, which files they were put into. So if they do ask, or if there is a breach, then you can see, for instance, if someone exported a CSV and then sent it to the wrong email address, or their laptop got stolen, or whatever happened, then you can see, okay, whose data was in that file. You'll be able to tell that without needing to without actually having it. You can see in an audit kind of trail way of who actually went in there. All right. So forget me is about what the system should do when I press the forget me button. So one of the GDPR guidelines is that a person should be able to tell you that they no longer want to be part of they no longer want you to hold their data. So in the CiviCRM sense, you can't necessarily just get rid of them, because there might be some financial information that you need to keep because of UK law, for instance, or whatever law of whatever country you're in. So you can't just get rid of the data, and you're allowed to keep it for your own jurisdiction purposes, but you can't keep it for communication purposes. So that again is an important question. It used to come up quite a lot when we used to deal with GDPR in its early days. The law obviously trumps GDPR directive. So if I, for tax reasons, have to keep financial information, so for instance, Canadians and US, and even in the UK, we have the gift aid. There's all kinds of different schemes all over the world. Those, I need to keep that financial information. I need to be able to prove why I claimed a tax rebate from the government for that transaction. So I need to be able to I need to be able to prove it should they ask. So that law overrides. So if someone says forget me, I can't then just delete them, because I would lose that kind of information about their financial history, and I can't do that. So what the GDPR extension allows you to do is to press a button to say forget them, i.e. change all of their personal information, and set all their do not contact indicators, but keep things that I need to keep about them. So I will do, let's do forget me as the first name, and I'll put GDPR directive as second name, and then I've got options as to what type of activities do I want to delete. So if I don't put the activities in, whatever activities I was putting here, when I press the forget me for that person, it's going to delete all of them. Right? Custom groups. So do I want to take them out of custom groups? I don't have any custom groups. Custom data groups, that is. So I might have, I don't know, notes and other things that I'm keeping in different places, or custom fields against the contacts. I will also want to clear them out. I can do that. I don't have any in mind. Do I want to email the DPO? Yeah, why not? I don't know if this is going to work. Anyway, we'll put it in. Well, I won't do that. It's too risky for a thing. Okay, so that's kind of removal and guidelines of when you should remove. Then I'm coming on to the section that's about data policy. Again, the directive is mainly aimed at making sure that people, when the people opt in and then they subscribe for things, that they know what they're subscribing for, and it's not kind of vague, like signing up for a newsletter doesn't just say why not sign up for a newsletter without explaining, without giving them some context about where that data is going to go, where their email address is going to end up. If it's crossing countries, I need to tell them according to GDPR rules. If it's going outside of the GDPR compliance states, outside of the EU, I need to tell them it's going outside of the EU. So there's certain things there about what I am doing. So therefore, I need a data policy that they agree to. Now, normally you would just put that in as a link anyway. I hope. If not, then obviously this is formalizing a little bit. I will just upload. Let's just upload anything. I've got an image there. It's fine. Data policy, I accept. That's all fine. I'm going to leave that alone. These are all settings that get specific around the pages and things, and that will make a bit more sense when you see them. All right, and then the other bits are about terms and conditions for events and contribution pages. So events, I'll start with events because that's a bit easier to explain. So often when you're running an event, your data or your terms and conditions will be different to your data policy, different or have some more clarifications in there. So for instance, if I'm signing up for an event and there's going to be cameras and people taking photos and stuff like that, then I might put that in the terms and conditions. If it's an event that means that any registrants, any attendees will have their information shared with sponsors for that event, for that conference, then they'll put that into the terms and conditions. So the terms and conditions are specific to particular activities. When I say activities, I mean events or fundraising events or contribution pages, etc. So that's why you have the terms and conditions separate from the data policy, and they are two different things. So again, the GDPR is taking the GDPR extensions, giving you all of this in kind of one setup and configuration section, so it makes your life a lot easier. So here I will say, yep, turn it on for every event. And for contribution pages, I mean, I'm not going to set any contribution pages up, but that's fine. And I'm going to do a file upload again. So let's do that. And I'm just sticking images in there from screenshots that I've taken. They're not real. There's nothing in there that's real. And I will save that now. So that's my initial configuration done. So when I've done my configuration, I've brought to this GDPR dashboard, and I can get to that from here as well. So I can go contacts GDPR dashboard, and it's showing me I've got 160 people that meet my criteria. About they haven't done anything in the last 3,000 days. So they haven't done any of these things in the last 3,000 days. So I've got 160 of them. So what I will do, I'm just going to set up an event. Should I do that? Yeah, let's do that. So I'll set up an event. So what I'm going to try and show you, because I don't want to flick between screens too much, so what I'm going to do is just set up an event, and then I'm going to stick a bunch of people in it, and then we can see that number go down because they've let's just say it's a meeting attendee. I'm not going to put anything in there. I'm not going to publish it or anything. It doesn't matter. And I'll just say it was on the 1st of November, and that's fine. Just continue with that. All right, cool. So I've got my skeletal event there. So now I'm just going to go and search. I'm going to find my contacts, and let's just look for anybody with J in them names. So there's 11 here. So I'm going to take these 11, and I'm going to register them for an event. So, yep, attendees, great. I'm not doing anything with anything, but I'm going to make this that they registered on the 1st of October because it doesn't make sense otherwise. All right, cool. So I've registered them all now. So now if I go back to the GDPR dashboard, we can see that 11's gone down, right? So those contacts have done something now. They've been put onto an event in the last 3,000 days. So they'll come out of that group. So initially, when you do this, you might go, "Oh my God, what is going on?" It kind of highlights the need to have your single point of truth, i.e., you need your data in a CRM in a single place in order to run this kind of stuff. If my events information is in Eventbrite, and then I've got bits of contributions hanging around in third-party systems, and I never really import anything into the CRM, and I just use it as a CRM for the website, then I can't use a lot of these tools because I don't have the data to know whether someone's done something or not, they've been active or not. I just don't have the data, so I can't really make good decisions. These are all kind of hints from us that try and make sure your data is of good quality and is all encompassing. That way you can get the system to tell you a lot more. Right, so that's that side of things. So you can see how that works. What I will now do, I'm just going to create a group. So we're doing search, find contacts, and I'm just going to pick everyone, and I'll take all. Right. And I'm going to add them all to a group. So I'm just creating this a static group for now because, like I say, it's just for the TV purposes. And I'm going to call this a newsletter group. And I'm not going to tick this, right, because I want to show you what happens. And then because there's a common. I always try and do these things like you guys might do. So actually, no, I do want to do that. Where's that gone? So let's go back there. So I did want to tick that actually. So let's go back there. So I need to make it a mailing list because I'm going to use it for mailings. I'm going to send a mass email to everybody in this group. So I've created that group. I've put everybody into it, and that's one of the groups that I want people to opt in and opt out of. Right. So that's kind of how I want them to control their communication preferences. So coming back here, so just give me 1 sec. Read my notes. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to email. Let's go mailing. So I'm going to email. So whilst I'm doing that, sorry, let me just do this. Just going to open up that tab. So let's do the emailing. And so one of the things, just whilst we're here, one of the things that often happens to me is I skip that thinking I've typed it in, and when you do that, the next button doesn't show up, and sometimes it's a bit like there it's highlighted, it doesn't always highlight it. So just in case you do, I think if I go here, I'll just show you, because this does catch me out often enough to, well, it's doing it now, isn't it? Typical. Previously, sometimes I get in a situation where that doesn't highlight properly, and then you can't tell what's wrong. And you just don't see the next, and it looks like you've typed something in there when you haven't. So let's send this. I got mailing 1, and it's coming from hello. It's everybody in there. Say we'd love to keep in touch. So I'm going to put the person's first name into it. So far so good. So what I'm trying to do with this email, just for your to give you a scenario that you might think about, is maybe you've not done any GDPR or any opt-in for a while. Seems a bit daunting. A lot of organisations that we speak to feel like they're going to lose a bunch of their audience when they do this. It doesn't have to be that way. We've seen situations where it's totally worked in the reverse, i.e. people have not only signed up, but they signed up for more than they were, because the communication preferences screens are much more informative, and they have a lot more information in them, and people find things that are much more relative rather than just a blanket newsletter group, which doesn't really tell them too much. And you're trying to cater for too many audiences in one mailing anyway. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm going to send something that allows the person to pick things of interest. So I'm just so they can not only say they don't want to be contacted, or they do, but they can also go a bit further in that they'll see groups that they wouldn't have seen before, and they'll get explanations that they wouldn't have necessarily got before. So I'm using this template that is provided by these guys, the US National Park Service. Obviously I'm using Mosaico, so I can create my own and use all kinds of things, but just for the sake of this, I thought I would do it this way. So let me just get some images. Okie doke, so that one, let's close that. Right, let's stick the that there. I'm just going to put something else in here. So people, lovely, and then I'm just going to put the GDPR image here. Okay, so I'm just going to change this now. Say I mean, I'm just wording it. It's not well worded. It's not how I word an actual email, but I'm just trying to say, I'm trying to make it encouraging to say, I really want to talk to you about the things that you're interested in and not everything else in the world. So try to do that. Now, for those of you that know about CiviCRM and how things work, so the email system will insist on an opt-out email address. I didn't set it before, but let's just see. I'll put the link in somewhere. It's fine. So in this button is where I want the the communication preferences. It's too long, so I'm just going to call it preferences. And in here I want to put the actual contact specific link. So I don't know what it is, so I'm just going to grab this and say guns preferences URL. That's what I want. So I'm going to take that. So I, you know, obviously there's better ways to do this, but okay, let's try that again. I want the so let's take that, copy into the link. Right, so okay. So if you're not quite sure what I'm doing, I suggest have a look at the video that we did, the TV episode that we did about sending mass emails from Civi. What I'm basically, in a nutshell, is taking a mail merge field and putting it in, because the communication preferences link I want is unique to each person. So I don't want so when they click on it, I want to show them their existing settings and allow them to update it, rather than submitting new settings and potentially creating lots of new contacts. I'm trying to keep it all together. So and that obviously gives you a better user experience, because they can see that you know who they are, that they're not having to fill in the form blank every time. Okay, so that's that. So we're good there. So I've got my next button. Lovely. Okay, lovely. And I'm expecting this to fail. Might not. Let's see what happens. Oh, yeah, so it's failed, right? So it's saying to me, I don't have an unsubscribe link or an opt out. Now, this is purely the way we do it at Veda. We try to we want all of the opt out, opt ins, everything to go through the communication preferences. So what I would do in this scenario is go to CiviMail and CiviMail component settings, and I would enforce all of the templates to either replace the opt out with the communication preferences or something. But for now, what I'm just going to do is disable the check. So this one is the one that you can disable, and then it doesn't check if the opt out's in there. Now, obviously, they're talking about US compliance and CAN spam and blah blah blah, but the GDPR compliance is exactly the same thing. It's just a slightly different level, and just having an opt out isn't really enough for us. It doesn't result in a good experience. For instance, if we just say, "Are you sure you want to opt out?" then that person in that split second is probably just going to say, "Yeah, I'm sure. Just press the button." Why wouldn't I want to opt out? But what we actually want to do is show them, "Oh, these are all the great things you're missing out on, and are you sure you want to opt out and not opt into one of these instead?" Like, you want to give them some option, right? You always try and present an alternative action to the one that is going to mean you can't communicate with them. So anyway, I'll waffle on for hours, but we're going to disable that. So that means it should then let me submit my mailing job. So let's do that again. There you go. Great. All right. So my mailing job's gone through. Now I don't have the cron set up, so I'm just going to fire that mailing job. Let's do send schedule mailing. So I'm just going to execute this now. Let's execute it, and then let's go back here. So that was scheduled. So seem to have messed up my stream. Just give me 1 sec. Let's go into that. Sorry about that. I pressed something and it maximized the image. So yeah, so I just went, just in case you missed that, I just literally went into schedule jobs and execute, and it started. So that's good. So let's go in there. We don't have my those completed, so that's okay. All right, so let's just see the job. How many did it send? All right, so it's saying it sent everything, so we're good there. I'm not sure why it timed out. Let's just try that again. Let's continue that. There should be nothing. Yeah, it's fine. Probably just a timeout on my system. That's fine. All right, so it sent 103. We're all good. So let's have a look at the. So I'm just going into my inbox now. I've got Mailtrap set up, so it's capturing all emails. So you can ignore the fact that I've got hundreds of them, but you can see they're each to different people, so that's fine. So if I was one of these people and this is my website with it not being logged in, right, it's standard kind of standard WordPress kind of theme I'm running. So if I then hit update my preferences, so now what I'm being presented with is the GDPR setting. So let me just make this a bit bigger. So obviously this is unstyled. I haven't really done anything to it. I've just enabled it, and I'm getting some of the options there, right? So tell us how you get. Do I want to be touching by email, blah blah blah, post, blah blah blah. Right, no styling whatsoever, nothing still empowered by Civi, etc. So this is the page where I want to do some work, right? I want to show them some options. I want to make it more informative. I've got the key basics of what I want, but this isn't enough. I just don't want to show them this. I want to show them a bit more. So let's go back to our setup. And now what I'm going to do, let's go back to GDPR communication preferences page settings, right? So this is where I can say what I would do or don't want to do. So I'm going to say use the mailing subscription page. So when someone resubscribes or opts back in, I want to see this page, not the default. Are you sure you want to opt in? Not that one. I want to show this one. If I am getting a lot of spam and things like that, and kind of fake bots putting in lots of subscriptions to things, then I can include reCAPTCHA as well. It's good practice to do that. It's worth doing. So here's where we're starting to see some of the options that we could see on the other screen. So I'm going to keep these. So I say, yeah, these are the channels we've got. What I really want to start doing is adding some groups into this. So if I tick this, I want to allow them to opt into groups. You can see I kind of get an extra option, but nothing much else. Now, this might be a bit confusing. It's like, well, I can opt them into mailing groups, but how do I control which groups? So if we go back to contacts, manage groups, then what you can see is my visibility of the newsletter group is set to user admin only. So therefore it's not something that I have exposed, right? So if I haven't exposed it, then it won't show up. So I need to make that public, right? So what we're saying there is anybody, regardless of their login, etc., can opt into or out of that group. So if I save this, let's go back to the settings page. Yeah, so now when I come down here, I've got that extra newsletter one. So let's create a couple more. So I'm just going to create a couple more groups. Events, updates, for instance. Mailing list, and I'll make it public. And I'm going to do another one. I'm just doing this to show you what the difference between a straight opt-in, opt-out is, as opposed to showing lots of different options. So what else can we have? So if I'm a membership organisation, I might have special membership offers that go out, partners, other companies, etc., etc. So I've created a couple more there. So I'm just going to refresh this page now. Let's refresh this. So now all of them have turned up, right? So let's configure this a little bit. So membership, I want that in there, and I'll keep the title. So I can have a different internal title to title that's posed to the outside world. So I'm going to make this, let's make this a 10. I'm going to make this a 5. I'm going to make this a 1. So I want it in that order. So these are all emails. So I'd explain that. So try and make it as self-explanatory as possible. I don't know, I'm just making that up. I'll add the events one as well. So saying so I can be a bit, so I'm going to say I'm only sending you events in your area, alright? So this is where, again, having the data in one place, being able to segment and group allows me to be a really quite specific about what I'm going to send them. Alright, let's just put that. So it is important in the GDPR directive, you are supposed to indicate what the content of that subscription is, i.e. what's the general areas that those those groups cover, how often do they get sent, what is the media that they get sent by, right? So that way it's nice and clear. When someone's opting in, they saw all of that information when they opted into it. All right, I'll leave all this as standard. I'm not gonna. Well, let's just talk about this. So, one, I think when we first did the GDPR extension, it just used to have the communication preferences page by itself, and there wasn't really a way to integrate it into other journeys like event subscription or donations or contribution pages. There wasn't really the method to set it up there. So when I say contribution pages, I'm talking about membership signups as well. It's something I forgot earlier. Was, the terms and conditions for membership are obviously different to events, and all of those terms and conditions sit on top of the data protection and data policies that you have. So coming back to this, so like I say before, you had to you would often let that process complete. So let's say someone signs up for an event, and then you might show the communication preferences as a secondary step after they've signed up. But now in the newer versions of Civi, you can embed that into newer versions of this extension. You can embed the communication preferences into your workflow. So when they're signing up for an event, you can get them to update their communication preferences at the same time if you wanted to, or you've got the option to add it as a link to the form. So I'll just do that for now, and then I haven't tried on any of that stuff yet. I mean, so we'll just we can do it like that. So now I've got what I've got set up. I've got newsletters and blah 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 blah. Right, great. So let's save this. Fine. So numbers haven't changed. Just going to go back into the other window. So now if I refresh this page, yep. So I can see the other options have showed up, and that message that I was getting was basically trying to say, well, if I'm going to opt into newsletters, then I must have email set to yes, because I can't send you our monthly newsletter without you saying yes to email. So in that way, I'm being really clear with the person what they can or can't, which media channels they can say yes or no to depending on their other options. So again, it creates a quite clear picture to your supporters, and they know what they're opting into, and they know what channels they're going to get things on. And I'm going to hit this and save that. I can't save it without the data policy, so I'm just going to do this just so I can show you what happens at the back end. And again, I can have as many of these groups as I want. If we were implementing this for real, obviously we'd style it up a lot nicer, because this is going to become a really key page in your interaction with external supporters, because you want to kind of direct everybody this way. That way, organization wide, you're presenting a really clear set of communication channels and threads and areas of interest. You're kind of presenting it at an organizational level, and not different things going out in emails saying different things, and then events teams putting out a different set of communication preferences, etc. So you're trying to keep it all together, and that way your data policy is always accurate, and it's very easy to audit the whole process. So I'll just save that. All right, my communication preferences were updated. I don't know who I was, so I'm this person. So let's take that email address. I'm just going to go back into our CRM. So let's find this person. So there they are. All right. So when you install the GDPR extension as well, you get the GDPR tab. But you also get this GDPR status here. So they submitted the preferences of this person today. So I can see that. And they said do not mail and do not trade. Their preference is phone, email, or SMS. SMS must be from before. And the email format, that's fine. That's all from before. That's not nothing to do with it. But these settings have changed, right? But I can also see in the GDPR stuff that this person's updated their communication preferences today. They've accepted the data policy today, and they're a member of these groups because I opted into them. So this is important. This is what the GDPR initiative and directive is looking for, that you can prove and you can audit trail exactly how that person got into the relevant groups. There is also an address history. So let's just see if this person got an address. They don't have an address, so I'll add one in. Let's just add one in, and yeah, it's fine. Save that. So because I've put do not mail, Civi knows not to use that. So let's try and change this to the street. Yeah, didn't quite do what I was expecting it to do. I'm pretty sure I'm not doing it right, but there is the settings to keep the address history as well in there somewhere. It should show the address change history as well as part of the stuff that we're looking at. So let's just do the final bit, and let's do the forget me. So what happens? So it's telling me quite clearly what it's going to do. You're going to forget me. Are you sure? Yes, I am sure. So so I can see now the context has totally changed. So the name has gone to forget me. The home email address has changed to GDPR directive. So I made a mistake when I was doing the configuration. I thought it was first name, surname, and I put GDPR directive into the surname, but you could put whatever email address you wanted in there to set them to. Set all do not trade stuff, and it would have knocked off any activities that I told it to, removed me from any groups that I told it to, and removed any custom data, so phone numbers, etc., will become unavailable at that point. And like I say, this new version, yeah, the WordPress stuff, I forgot about that. So in this new 3.4, let's just see what we've got. Oh, that's the wrong page. We don't want to go there. So we'll see, what else did we have? So the short code. So the export. Again, one of the GDPR things is I should be able to, me as a supporter, should be able to ask your organization for everything that you hold about me. So the export, the functionality there in the GDPR, and if I just come back to the right window, so the export function here allows you to pick everything that you want to send to them, and you can send it as a PDF, and it will collate it all into a format that is compliant, and therefore you kind of deal with that request in a kind of one-click format. You don't have to go and try and work out what to show them and how to show them, or how to export any other route. So that's one thing. And then so the rest of it is all kind of technical changes. So the only bit to look at, and the reason why I did this in WordPress and totally forgot about it, which is good, is the shortcode for the GDPR. So if you have got a page that you set up, so let's go back here. So in my pages, I don't know what that is. Nothing from before. Right, so I'm just going to add a new one. Oh, maybe I was in the middle of doing one. Okay, so I've got "We'd love to stay in touch" as the page, and then I've got my shortcode here. So update preferences. Right. So if I just preview that, So that is going to create a page that in WordPress that I could link to from anywhere, right? So that I could make the default, stay in touch, keep in touch. If I've got buttons all over the place, that's the page that I could then direct to, and I can have other content in that page. So obviously the whole shortcode thing is that I can have more and more content. But I knew how to do that. Well, I do know how to do that. I'm just trying to finish up. So so again, preview that. So obviously having it in a page allows me to do things like this and make it all nice and pretty and word around it, image around it, etc. And like any other post. But now I've got an embedded form which is directly talking to Civi, and it will do the things like update the, it will do the dedupe matching. So just whilst I'm on this, let's just go back in here, because right now that form doesn't have anything about doesn't have any other information, right? So let's say I'm changing my name or something's happened that that I should really be asking for at the same time. So what have I got in here? So custom groups, stability. That's not one. I want the other one. Where's the other one? So what I want to do is include a profile. There you go. So I want to take support profile and put that in there as well. Right. So that way, if I just preview that now, so that way when that person then clicks on the link, and I'll show you that in a sec. So now I'm showing a bit more information, right? Because I'm taking the opportunity to capture the first name and last name at the same time. So let's just go back and I'll show you what I mean. So now I've added those fields in there. If I come back to here, so this is, oh no, let's not do that. Let's close that. So I'm going to go with someone else. Let's go to this person, Kathleen. Oh, my voice went a bit high there. It's fine. So I've got her details in the database already, but let's say her surname changed to Cooper, for instance. Then she could tell us that and opt into some more stuff and say no, and say no, and say I accept or say yes. Let's play this a little bit different. So say yes, yes, yes. And I might say the email address is changed as well, right? So it's just GenSnap, or let's make it right, Cooper. Oh. Why are you playing so you buggers? Yeah. Weird. Alright, that's a bit weird. It's auto tabbing. Alright, so I'll save that. So my communication preference has been updated. Great. Let's grab our email address. That's that one. And let's go back to the Chrome window. And let's find her. Oh, I changed it, didn't I? Boom, 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 boom. So that's her. So we can see that her email address changed and the communication preferences have all stayed true because I didn't say no to anything, and we can see her surname changed, so it's Kathleen Cooper, and the GDPR is all there. So I can have more profiles in that communication preferences page as well, and in that way I'm getting a much more data a GDPR compliant process together. So I think that's it. I think that's all I wanted to just go through and show you. So again, it's a native extension to CiviCRM. You should just be able to download and install it. We are constantly working on it. I say constantly, we are consistently working on it. We support it actively. So if there are things that are not quite working or things that need to be corrected, do let us know. There's some open issues, but I'm sure a lot of these are just old and just need to be cleared down. Yeah, I think that is it. So sorry about not showing my face today. My house is still a bit of a mess. We'll sort it out next time, and yeah, hope you enjoyed the episode. We'll probably be moving to Wednesdays, I'm told by one of my staff, that really effective people do their presentations and their kind of outward facing stuff on Wednesdays, apparently, not Fridays. So let's see. But I hope you enjoyed it. Please do put any areas of interest on ideas.civicrm.tv. Anything that you're interested in seeing or would want to clarify on in the CiviCRM ecosystem, please do post on there, and if there's enough traction, we will include it. All right, thank you very much, and see you next time.